All right, my first ever amateur fitness model slash bodybuilding competition that I did back in 2017. I want to talk about that freaking awesome day, which feels like yesterday, coming up in this video. Beginning of the Great Ocean Road here in Australia. Really phenomenal, guys. Okay, my friends, welcome back. I thought I'd make a short video on my first ever fitness model slash bodybuilding competition that I did in a drug-free, drug-tested federation here in Melbourne 3 years ago. And it's the 15th of July 2020. You might be thinking, why are you making a video on something that happened so long ago? Firstly, we're in lockdown, so we have stage 3 restrictions here, which means we can't do much. If you guys are in restrictions or lockdown at the moment, let me know what country down in the comments. We're stage 3, we've actually gone back into lockdown. So frustrating, but it is what it is. You gotta do your part, you know, social distancing and things of that nature. But this is a perfect opportunity to look back on memories. And this is one of them. So I know you guys that are subscribed into more the travel adventure videos and the fitness street videos and that kind of stuff, and they are coming. But this is a one-off bodybuilding related video, and mainly, I guess, for people that are coming here for the first time and you're looking at competing for the first time and you want some insight as to what it's like behind the scenes, the tanning, the cost, the experience. So I want to talk about that in this video. It did happen 3 years ago. My first ever show, my first ever getting up on stage, half naked, tanned, in front of these big floodlights. Honestly, never thought in a million years I would ever do anything like that. I am just an ordinary dude. I am nobody really special when it comes to fitness. I made a separate video on my fitness transformation story. I literally started as a guy who was skinny fat, and even skinny at one point, and then I got like kind of fat and skinny fat. They call it skinny fat. And I tried all sorts of crazy diets and things to try and get shredded, and I really struggled, and I made a separate video on that, and I'll link it up. And then I got to a point where I managed to kind of figure out my calories and my macros and my training and all that kind of stuff. And I'll link up some articles that I've written that sort of go through what I use to get into shape. If you're interested, I'll link them up. And then I got to a point, you know, my body, end of 2016, I was like, you know what, I might just try competing. And I'll be brutally honest, I had no interest in competing at all. My whole life, I had no interest. Getting tanned up looked ridiculous. I had no interest in it whatsoever. And then end of 2016, I thought about it. It was on my mind for probably about 6+ months. And then I finally said to myself, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot. And I'm nervous as, I'm so nervous. I was excited, but I was also nervous. And if you're watching this for the first time and you're wanting to get into it, you pretty much just look for a federation in your local area. And I wanted to pick one that was a drug-tested, drug-free federation, because I did everything naturally, no steroids or my training. Never tried steroids in my life. And I do want to go to a federation full of dudes that were competing that are completely jacked up on steroids, because I'd just be like this little guy with these huge guys, you know, jacked up with steroids. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. I need to compete on a level playing field with other guys that are small like me. And so I found a federation that was drug tested and all that here in Melbourne, called ICN. It stands for I Compete Natural, ICN. I'll link up the website. You can read up on it if you're interested. Anyway, so I looked at the pricing. I then looked for a coach. I looked for a coach that specifically looks after competitors. So not just a normal personal trainer, but a competition preparation coach. And then I looked for a posing coach.
There we go.
See that shape you got there?
Yeah.
All you're doing now is hold that shape, and all you're doing is letting these parts of your arms sit on top of those. Okay, so from here.
A posing coach is someone who teaches you how to pose on stage. I know it sounds really weird, but when you're on stage, you can have a really good body, you can look really good, look really shredded. However, you just look all over the place on stage and not coordinated, and you just won't get anywhere, and you'll probably lose, or you probably won't place. So actually knowing how to pose on stage is important. So I got a posing coach, my preparation coach. I then look for some tanning people. So that crazy tan that everyone wears on stage, that was a special tanning person that I organized for that. And they put like several layers, like painting a house. They put like the undercoat, the top coat, the glaze. It's crazy, like literally like 3 layers. Anyway, so I then looked for when the next competition was for the federation. It worked out to be March 2017. I started my preparation in November 2016. So it was 4 months of preparation. It cost a lot of money. From memory, it cost like 4,000 to 5,000 Australian dollars for the whole thing. The competition coach, the posing coach, the fees, the membership fees, the entrance fees, the dieting, the meal planning, all of that, $4,000 to $5,000. You might be thinking, what do you get when you win? I got first place in 2 separate divisions, and I didn't win any money. I didn't do it for the money. I didn't do it to try and win something. There weren't any prizes. I just wanted to do it to test myself, to push myself, to see how far I could go. And yeah, to my surprise, I won the competition. I know I've stepped the story a little bit, but rewind. I was prepping, I was training, I was working with my coach, and then the day of my competition came, and it was one of the most insane things I've ever done in my life. I will never forget it, ever. I remember waking up in the morning of the competition, and the first thing I had to do was I had to literally drink 5 eggs, I think it was 5 or 3.
Yeah, no, I'm sturdy like a Millie Rocket. Skin clear, still look young, Andy Miller knockers, money in my pocket. Don't call me a money pocket, engine get to rocket.
Raw eggs. I literally had to crack them. I bought a 6-pack of eggs from the supermarket, and I had to crack them and just eat them raw. And it was Rocky style. Man, it was the hardest thing on the planet. I've never done a Rocky style with raw eggs before, but that was the first thing to get my protein intake for the day of the competition. I had to eat these eggs raw. Oof. And so I got to the venue. I was with my friend, and she was going to help me film everything for me, right? So the footage that you see is filmed by a couple of friends that I train with in the gym over the years. And literally I had a meal plan for the day of the competition. My meal plan was to eat rice crackers every 2 hours. I had to eat, I think it was 5 rice crackers every 2 hours. Now, what happens usually before you get on stage, this is a little bit of behind the scenes. You do a pump up. So what that means is that you have these weights, right? You have like dumbbells, or you have like resistance bands or things of that nature. And you do a pump up behind the scenes on the side stage or the backstage. You do this pump up. The idea of doing the pump up is you want to make the muscles as big as possible, as juicy as possible. So you do that pump up like 30 minutes before your stage time. And I think my stage time was like 11:30 in the morning or 12:30, and my pump up was like 30 minutes before that. So you spend like 30 minutes like pumping up like this, like doing this crazy stuff like this. Just, you're trying to pump those muscles up, and it's like, you're doing curls, you're doing overhead presses like with the dumbbell, you're doing like kickbacks, you're doing like squats, you're doing everything to just pump your muscles. And I had 2 tubs of strawberry jam, and I was literally having tablespoons of strawberry jam on its own, strawberry jam like this. And you might be thinking, why do you do that? It's because you need the energy for the stage. You're just smashing this strawberry jam, it's crazy. So you get on stage, you compete, you get off stage, you have some more strawberry jam, you do some pump ups, and then you get back on stage again, and then you come back off the stage, strawberry jam, pump ups, and back on stage again. It's insane. When you get on stage, the moment before you get on stage, literally before you're lining up, there's a queue of you, there's 10 guys in my division. In my particular division, it was like 10 guys. We're all lining up and we're ready to go on stage. And I kid you not, it was the biggest adrenaline rush I think I've had in my life. One of the biggest adrenaline rushes, because you've got these huge spotlights. you've got a row of judges at the front, and you've got probably a couple of hundred people in the audience. And people are cheering, and you've got some cameras set up because they're filming the whole event. And man, it's like a huge adrenaline rush. And I felt so pumped, I was so excited, but at the same time, like my adrenaline was just pumping through my body. Whew, man. And then when they called us up on stage, you walk single file on stage, and you know, you get into your first pose. Now, there's a whole maybe separate video for this. I don't even know if I'm gonna make a video on just the posing. If I get like enough people asking for it, I'll talk more about it. But literally, you have what they call the quarter turn. So you have 4 different poses, or 5, and you're in the front position, and then the judges say, make a quarter turn to the right. So you make a quarter turn to the right, so you're now side on with the audience. And then you strike that pose, and then the judges will say, make a quarter turn to the right, which means your back now faces the judges. And so you do this like 4 times, right? So quarter turn, and then you come back to the front, and then the judges ask you to do an ab pose. So you strike your abs, you flex your abs, and then they're there grading you. And so after all of that, I managed to win. I managed to win that division. Number 87 was my competitor number, and you'll never ever forget, if you're one of the few people watching this that are looking at competing in one of these shows, and you do go on to compete and win, you will never forget your competitor number 87. I will never forget number 87 being read out by the MC, and people just cheering, and it was one of the craziest things in my life. Never ever been through that before. I was in complete shock when I won.
Champion!
Unbelievable.
Champion!
Unbelievable. Fuck.
Look at that trophy! Look at that trophy!
Come over here. I wasn't even expecting to win. I really didn't, I loved the atmosphere of just pushing myself, and yeah. And then I got off stage, and then I quickly had my strawberry jam, went back on stage, and then I won again.
Lightning strikes twice.
Oh God!
Oh boy. Jesus. Fucking hell, crazy.
Oh man. I won first place in another division. So there was Rising Star, they call it Rising Star, and Rookie. I think there was those two divisions were ones I came first place in. So I got these 2 big trophies, and I got these 2 big awards, which were the Champion Trainer Award, which I gave to my competition coach, which she didn't come, by the way. She did not arrive. She wasn't there on the day of my competition. Oh! She did tell me in advance that she wasn't going to go to it, but you know, she wasn't there. When I was on stage and the MC asked, oh, is your coach here? I'm like, no, she's not here.
Brad, is your trainer here? Don't know?
Damn. However, I did have a bunch of guys that were, you know, friends that were training around me for a couple of years in the gym that were there to support me. And I got some group photos, I'll throw them up actually. It was really, really cool to have some support come along. And then after the competition, like literally after you walk off stage, on the side stage, they literally have pancakes, donuts, chocolate bars, like all the crap food, right? All the junk food. But I tell you what, it tastes so good because you're so deprived. You're on such a strict diet for like 4 months. My preparation was 4 months. That when you see like anything like that.
Yeah, but you can have 2 if you want.
Can I take the whole box?
You can go for it. His reaction.
Oh man.
You're welcome, bro. Enjoy that, bro.
You just run for it. And so all the competitors are like, you know, chocolate bars, Twix bars, donuts, like, oh man. After the competition, I had a giant big steak and I had like some raw slice, you know, vegan bars, and I had all sorts of junk. So yeah, once I got off stage, I was ushered to a room, and it wasn't filmed because they wouldn't allow us to film this, but I had to get drug tested. So they put me into a room. I had to do a pee in a cup sort of thing, and I got tested, and obviously I came back clean. I've done the whole thing naturally without steroids. That's why I'm not the biggest guy. I'm not definitely not the biggest guy in general, but on stage I was 87 kilos, right? I think 87.5 or 88 kilos, something like that. I'll convert it in pounds, but quite small really. But that's because I'm not taking drugs, I'm not taking steroids, I'm not taking SARMs, I'm not taking anything. Just all through diet and training and just being patient. So I got drug tested. That was just, I've never ever, who would ever think, I was like, man, this is crazy. I can't believe I'm competing on stage. I've won the competition. Now I'm getting drug tested. Oh man, it was such a big day. And I'd never won anything in my life. I've never ever won trophies. I've never gotten first place in anything in my life. And that's why when I make this video, I'm like, if you're looking at competing, if you're into fitness and you're training and you're looking at doing an amateur show, then my best piece of advice is to give it a shot. If you have a relatively healthy relationship with food, because I know some people get into this and they've already got an unhealthy relationship with food because there's quite a lot of meal prep involved, calories, macro tracking. And if you already have an unhealthy relationship with food, then it usually makes those kinds of people have a more unhealthy relationship. So, for me, I had a relatively healthy relationship going into the competition with food, and I just saw it as a bit of fun and something to push myself, and I did it. So go and give it a shot and let me know if you decide to sign up. I'm curious, but I will never forget that day. After that competition, on a massive high, I decided to do several more competitions after that, which I won't talk about in this video. This video is just to talk about my first ever comp, but I literally went on to do 3 other competitions. Now, it does get expensive. I don't know where you're watching this from, but here in Oz, I got some prices, I actually wrote these down. The membership cost me $150. That first competition that I did, cost me $410 just to enter. That's just the entry. That's nothing else, just entering. $385 for another show just to enter. $600 for the world titles. It goes on and on. I spent over $1,700 Australian dollars just to enter 4 competitions over the period of 6 months. But anyway, I did all these different competitions after my first show because I won. I'm like, man, I'm on such a high. I've just got to do more competitions, and I did. I went to the world titles, which I might make a separate video on because I had to go and travel overseas, and I had a different coach that time, and it cost me $600 just to enter that competition. And I didn't win the world titles. I got 5th place, but it doesn't really matter because by the time I got to the world titles, I was also pretty exhausted, to be brutally honest with you. I'd already done 3 competitions prior to that. And so I was already mentally exhausted and I need a bit of a break. And so, yeah, I'll make a separate video maybe on the world titles, but I didn't win, I got 5th place. But I was so happy just to get on stage with the best in the world. These guys that I was competing with, they were professionals. I wasn't a professional, I'm just a guy from Australia, hello. I'll never forget it. It was one of the craziest things in my life. Anyway, that is the wrap up. That's pretty much the short story of that memory. So if you're an existing subscriber, you probably have 0 interest in this, and that's completely fine. I respect that. But if you're looking at competing, doing your first show, whether you're male, female, natural or not natural, then let me know if this video has been insightful. Let me know what your outcome is. If you decide to compete after watching this video, let me know how you go. But it's a great personal challenge, and I think everybody that's interested in fitness and training the way I was when I first started should definitely give it a shot. If you've got the money, because it's expensive. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Stay safe. Until next time.